Hola!
Hey guys!
We're back!
And I'm flush with the enjoyment of having watched that video, that spoof thing that...
it was made by C.
Thank you so much, C.
Yeah.
Cash and I are kind of blown away that you would go through the effort to actually do that. I laughed so hard, I cried.
Kidding.
Like, my throat hurt.
Yeah, you should have seen her. She was like on the floor, like
coughing and
holding
crying.
her stomach. No, but as you can see, I have my hairpin back.
So there's gonna be none of that goofy.
So that I can't have this spoofed.
I can't guarantee I won't be touching my breasts at this point, though. That seems to be a habit I can't break. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm sure they don't mind.
That's gonna be a running comment.
So what do you say we open with the questions that people sent us yesterday?
I would love to read your questions.
I feel kind of bad that we didn't get to them yesterday when I made such a big deal about, oh yeah, submit us questions. I mean, not that many people submitted, but that's cool. We have some good talking points. So
excellent.
The first question we have is from Howard, and he wants to know if at the end of season 7, the writers of 24 have truly made Tony Almeida an evil character, would you watch season 8 of 24?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Of course I will watch. Whether I will be as invested in fandom, probably not. It depends if Tony's in season 8. Like, yeah. I think that's kind of really... If they make him evil and he's in season 8 and... You know, this whole wherever they leave him off at the end of season 7 is picked back up in season 8, and there's going to be more Jack Tony stuff and more character growth and more resolution to that. Yes, absolutely, I'll be as into it as ever.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what? I would even go so far as to say that if this were the end of Tony at this particular point, I would still continue to watch, and I would still continue to enjoy the site. I feel a bit like a hypocrite saying that because right now I've been really slacking. But I don't know. I really liked how they've managed to scrape together something of an amazing season this time around, and I want to see them keep going with that. I think there's a lot of momentum right now, even if there's some questionable decisions as far as where the characters are going and where Tony's going. I'm simply interested again, which is a nice feeling for me. I may come around to actually enjoying Tony being bad if he is indeed bad.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the general feeling from a lot of people right now, is that, like, it could end up being cool. Like, it could really work. But it depends on how they play it. Mm-hmm. You know, it depends on how it's executed.
Yeah. Well, and plus we made a commitment right at the beginning to see this through to the end.
Absolutely. We absolutely did. I mean, but, like, as far as, like, the amount of time I would devote to the site, if it turns out that Tony is evil and Jack does kill him and then he's not in season 8, would probably be a lot less than if he is in season 8. Yeah. But either way, I'm watching. Like, you know, as for whether I'm gonna be able to keep up as heavily with the website if there is no Tony.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like a season 6 thing. I mean, I would probably stay more active because I'm a little bit more invested in the community of the site now than I was when I took the first hiatus. But anyway, that answers that. Yes, the answer is yes on both. We both will watch. Next question. Bill writes, in the episode, the blonde woman who talks with Hodges, who I guess, like, since last night has come to be dubbed Fake Lawyer.
Fake Lawyer.
Fake Lawyer.
I like that.
So in the episode, Fake Lawyer who talks with Hodges keeps saying us when talking with him. Who do you think she and Tony are actually working for? Well, we got a little bit of a hint from the episode with that other guy whose name is Alan something. Yeah. His name wasn't mentioned in the episode, but somebody's already looked it up on IMDb, like Alan something or other, but I can't remember his last name offhand. But so the three of them are obviously involved in some kind of conspiracy.
Yeah, and it looks like some corporation of some sort.
You think?
I don't know. It looks to me kind of official.
See, there was a lot of clues, I thought, in the scene between Fake Lawyer and Hodges, where you kind of start to realize that Hodges is only, like, a cog in the machine, like he said, and he's just this kind of, like, one player who's not even the big fish, right? Which was really surprising to me because I was absolutely sure when they brought Hodges in that he was the big fish. Yeah. You know, I didn't for a second think they were going to go further with it. And for Tony to be the bigger fish, that's just fucking insane.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, and that's kind of why I get the feeling that this is something corporate, because for one man who's sociopathic and crazy like that to be a cog in a machine, to be not a big fish, you need something bigger than that. And 3 random powerful people just hanging out together doesn't seem to me to be big enough to be...
Well, I thought it was interesting that Fake Lawyer said to Hodges that, you know, everyone else is basically just, like, under the assumption that this is some kind of psychotic break. Like, I guess when they got into bed with Hodges in the first place, they never imagined that he would go, like, down this road, or that he would go this far, right? Like, they either overestimated his mental stability, or underestimated his twisted dedication to the corporation that he built.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think whatever's going on, you know, I mean, didn't Fake Lawyer say that her group commissioned Hodges to develop the weapon?
Yes.
So, I mean, it wasn't even his idea. It was theirs.
Yeah.
And then once he had it, he's like, oh, well, hoo, I'm gonna do, you know, with it what I will to get what I want, right? So, it was their idea to develop the weapon. Who knows what their end game is, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so in response to the question, who do we think they're working for? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I was kind of saying, like, I was thinking that, I mean, I think, and then Bill goes on to write, earlier in the season, I posted on the message forum that I thought Noah Daniels had something to do with everything. I still think that's a possibility. And I think that's actually, like, not a bad theory, because they've been dropping Daniel's name a fair bit.
Yeah.
They've also been dropping Logan's name. And, I mean, it might be too much to ask to think that Logan would come back at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a stretch.
But it's like, when Fake Lawyer was talking to Hodges, she's all like, you know, and Hodges made a point of saying, well, I don't even know who I'm working for, you know? And then she says, well, you know enough, which must mean that the people that he's working for are very high profile, right?
Wouldn't it be cool if this all came back to the White House?
And Daniels and Hodges do know each other. I mean, that's what, you know, he mentioned that in his conversation with Taylor, that when Daniels was president, they were tight. And, you know, the government and Starkwood had a good relationship. So, who knows?
Yeah.
You know? I wouldn't put it past Daniels. You know, I rewatched season 6. I didn't really make a big deal about it on the site, but I kind of felt like anytime somebody brought up anything to do with season 6, I was totally lost because I didn't remember anything that happened. So I rewatched it all on DVD over the course of, like, I don't know, a weekend and a couple days, like on either end in the evenings. And Daniels is a bastard. Like, he really is, like,
because that's a bunch that I missed too.
He's very, like, a really unscrupulous man.
Boy, I'll have to do some thinking about that too, some backtracking.
So could Noah Daniels be coming down the pipe? I wouldn't rule it out. Yeah. I wouldn't rule it out.
That it'll be interesting just to see this play out, but yeah.
But, you know, other than that, like, I don't have any idea who Tony could be working for. Ultimately, I don't think it really matters who he's working for. I mean, it does in a sense, and it doesn't in a sense, because I think that Tony has his own agenda no matter what.
Yeah, you were mentioning that last night. You know, we had a quick debrief last night online.
Yeah, it's already posted, so they know.
Yeah, so you guys know what we said then. How about Cash made the point, and I completely agree that no matter who Tony's working for at this particular point in the game, he's only going to be using it as a tool. He's ultimately his own fish.
I think he's got his own agenda.
Yeah.
And if working with or for these people serves that agenda, he'll do it. But I don't think that his true intentions, his total endgame has been revealed yet, and I don't think it will be for a while. Like, we have 5 episodes left to go.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if we, like, I think they're gonna shed some light on it little by little, like, through the last 5 episodes, but I don't know if we're really gonna find out for sure what's in Tony's head until the very end.
Want to guess who he's working for right now, just because they are never going to give me exactly what I think ever.
Yeah.
Really. They haven't done it yet, quite honestly, so
yeah, no kidding.
It's probably going to be a pretty good surprise.
Yeah, well, I mean, could there be a shocking twist bigger than this? Bigger than Tony being evil?
I love that whole term, shocking twist. It's rife with it right now.
Yes. Okay, shall we move on to the next question? All right. Avery says, I only have one question. What did you guys think of the fact that Jack was able to figure out that Tony is working against them based on such paltry evidence? It seems to me that the only way he would have reached that conclusion so quickly would be if he still had lingering suspicions. But I hadn't noticed any signs of that. Looking back, do you think there were?
So we're specifically addressing the question of whether or not Jack had lingering suspicions and if he displayed those suspicions on screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, look! Look who we have here.
Hey, baby, come on.
I got candy.
Everybody, this is Gabriel. Gabriel was born on Holy Night in season 3.
The holiest of all seasons.
Gabriel's now 5 years old. See,
Can you wave? Say hi.
There we go. If there's some of you that don't remember what happened, I was in labor on Tuesday night when it aired on Tuesday night.
Yes, because this is back when Holy Night was Tuesday, not Monday.
That's right.
Yeah, really long time ago. Old school style.
Totally. And I'm sitting there on the floor of my living room laboring when I suddenly realized that it's Tuesday.
You're screaming at the midwife.
I'm screaming at the midwife.
Put a VCR in the tape!
Other way around.
Put a VCR in the tape. Put a tape in the VCR.
And then and then Ben turns around and says, "It's okay, honey, it's already done." And then I was able to relax and give birth.
Right, yes. Yeah, once Kat knew that the tape was in the VCR, she could give birth, with no qualms.
That's right. And Gabriel was born pretty much right when the episode was about half through. 9:30, I think, or so. Yeah, so anyway, there you go.
Okay, say bye.
Say bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, baby, go upstairs. Go upstairs. There we go. Okay, so
sorry about that. Where were we?
We're talking about whether or not Jack had suspicions.
Right. Yeah. Whether the writers were sort of taking a lot of license with Jack being able to so easily figure out that Tony was the.
Well, I'd like to talk about 2 points there.
Yeah.
Avery makes a couple of points, and the first one is. Has Jack showed that kind of doubt on screen prior to this point?
Absolutely.
And I think, yes, he has. There have been a lot of moments where he's watched Tony. He just looks and watches. And there could be a lot of hope in his watch. There could be a lot of tenderness and a lot of pathos there.
I think there's both. But I think, you know what, I've been thinking a lot about this. And it takes me all the way back to the very first episode when basically Walker revealed that Tony's alive and that he's working with terrorists, that he's become a terrorist. And at first Jack's like, I don't believe it. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But then once Walker reveals that they had Tony's grave exhumed and that it wasn't his body, Jack realized that it could be true. And it's like, at first he doesn't want to believe it, but the amount of time it takes for him to be totally not believing that any of this could be true, that Tony could even be alive, much less a bad guy, to the time that he actually accepts it and goes with Walker and goes on the mission. I mean, until he heard Tony's voice, maybe he wasn't quite there, but
yeah.
We were talking about whether or not Jack had suspicions that something wasn't right with Tony before tonight, and we were both saying that we definitely thought that he did.
I think he was always conflicted between wanting to believe him and wanting to bond again with Tony, but still struggling with that.
Feeling like something wasn't right. I totally agree with you, because Jack was very quick to believe that Tony could turn. You know what I mean? I think that's the point I was making when we got interrupted, but just that it didn't take Jack very long to leap from, this man was my best friend and he was killed tragically, to this man is alive and he's a terrorist and I have to stop him. I mean, when Jack looked in Tony's face in episode 3 and said, I'll kill you and you'll stay dead this time, he fucking meant it, And then once the whole Deep Sky thing came out, Jack really wanted to believe in Tony and really wanted to, think that he was still that same friend, that same man. But when I think, thinking about it now, in light of everything that's happened, when Jack and Tony were face to face in that holding room, Jack saw something in Tony's eyes he didn't like. And I don't think he's really ever gotten it out of his head, because I think there's been moments throughout that have been where Jack's been a little suspicious or a little hostile or, wanting to believe but reluctant for some reason. There's been a lack of faith for sure.
It's been fought down. but definitely.
Yeah, it's like this nagging voice inside Jack's head that Jack really wants to just be like, I'm being paranoid, like, I've just, you know, lived my life and experienced too much betrayal at the hands of people I trusted. You know, Tony would never betray me. But there was still, like, that nagging, you know, vestige of doubt in his mind. Where were we?
Well, I think that's pretty much explored and explained, and I think I want to move to how Jack realized something was awry really quickly.
Sorry, do you mind if I just go back to the previous point really quick? I just wanted to point out a couple of the moments where I thought that Jack's suspicion or hostility or that nagging doubt was getting to him. One was obviously in episode 7 when the two of them parted ways, when Jack and Bill went to the White House to deal with the
right.
You know, with informing Taylor and about everything. And, you know, Tony said he was going to follow up on a lead, which at this point I don't even think really existed. I think he had the intel all along, and he just fed Jack a story about torturing and killing a guy to get the information to make it sound credible, right? But, you know, so when they were having that final conversation and Jack asked Tony for his word that he would turn himself in, you know, and Tony agreed and they shook hands, like, there was a lingering moment where they were looking at each other, like, as they were parting ways, and something wasn't right about it. Like, something wasn't right for Jack, and something wasn't right with Tony either, and I felt it then.
I felt that uneasiness, for sure.
And then again, in the scene, I think it's episode 10 on the steps of the Capitol building.
I was going to bring that up.
When Tony reveals, you know, this conspiracy goes deeper, it's not over, blah, 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 and brings up Burnett, you know, Jack is suspicious. Right off the bat, he says, this better be real, you better not be lying to me. You better not be lying to me, is what he said. And that's not the first time today he said that phrase to him, right? And so I think the minute he realized Tony told him any lie, he knew it was over. Like, you know, so... Anyway, so to move on now to your second point.
How did Jack realize so quickly something was going on? He's been turning towards the camera quite frequently, being at the FBI headquarters. Whenever any kind of feed is being displayed on the monitors, he zeroes in on it quickly. He's a field agent, a very experienced one, and he's noticing funny little things, feelings, hunches, just by the way things look, the way things play out.
Yeah, like that instinct becomes second nature,
Yeah, and I think they've been really trying to push that he's been having those gut feelings for quite a while now. Like, he keeps on paying attention to those monitors, and I knew that as soon as things started to go down, he would turn around and start noticing. I kept feeling like, Jack, if you just look at the monitors right now, you're going to notice something. And he did. The way, I think, you know, he's got so much in his head right now, his lingering mistrust, however small, of Tony, excuse me, coupled with how all the elements sort of go together, all these agents moving into this building, Renee being the one in charge, all this funniness, this weirdness, and it all moves into him having to investigate for himself what's going on.
Well, one of the things Avery brought up in her question was, I think the word she used was paltry evidence. Like, I mean, yes, there was evidence, but it wasn't conclusive enough against Tony for Jack to immediately draw that suspicion, to draw that conclusion. But I don't think Jack needed strong evidence. The strength or weakness of the evidence is a moot point. The minute Jack realized Tony had lied to him, it was all over. Like, he just knew. He knew, like, you know, the minute he realized that Galvez had to have the FBI's protocols in order to do what he'd done, he knew immediately. Because it's just a feeling. It's just a feeling. Like, when you're that connected to someone and you know someone that well. And I mean, like, it's not like Tony did a great job with his cover story either.
No.
I mean, he shot himself with a different gun than Moss was shot with.
Well, and that's the thing, like the suspicion was laid down quite strongly at the moment where Jack was investigating Moss there.
Yeah.
And Tony was making such a piss poor story, and
well,
his eyes were just like,
he's not a very good liar.
No,
he
not.
Never has been.
No.
Because he's too authentic.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, whether he's good or he's evil, he's completely committed to that, right? Like, he can only be himself.
And there was that panic, you know, you could see.
I mean, unlike, say, like a character like Nina, who's very good at playing roles and being who somebody wants her to be, right? Like getting inside that person's head, figuring out who they need her to be and being that. Tony can't do that. Mm-hmm. Tony's just Tony. Mm-hmm. Whether he's good Tony or evil Tony, he's still Tony. He's still, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so Jack knows him. He knows him better than anyone in the world.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's that moment there where bang, all of a sudden Jack's like on high alert for this weirdness with Tony after Moss dies. And then there's one thing after another, boom, 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 and he's pretty convinced by this point that it's Tony anyway.
But he doesn't want to believe it.
Doesn't want to believe it, and then it gets confirmed as soon as he sees Tony hauling away Buddy Boy into the ambulance. And
so was it? I mean, was it a little bit contrived the way that it all played out? Maybe maybe a bit.
I think that,
but I thought Kiefer and Carlos sold it.
I think they did, and I think the contrivance may have just been a necessity because they had to hide enough from the viewer so that this would be a surprise, the way it played out. Because you couldn't be too obvious, dropping big bombs and making conclusive evidence and blah, blah, blah. Because then it would just be like, hitting you like with a 2x4 at a time.
I mean, I think what they were going for was that, like, Jack was really the only person who could have figured it out. Yeah. Like, maybe Renee could have too, like, but I mean, it was like the minute Renee vocalized, it had to be someone on the inside. It was like the look on Jack's face. Like, he knew instantly.
Yeah.
Because he's had this feeling like something's not right. But
Avery, thanks for the question.
Really great question. Awesome question. Okay, so our next question comes from Adam at the Jack Sack. And he says, all right, so Tony is still evil based on tonight's episode. Don't you think that at this point it would be more difficult to explain how a good Tony did all of these bad things, like killing dozens of federal agents, as opposed to explaining how Tony fell from grace and is truly bad, conflicted, and nihilistic? He goes on to write, I think the writers have to commit to Tony's turn at this point, based on what he's done in tonight's episode. Your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. Like, that's a lot to chew on.
Do you want to start? Or?
Yeah, I can start. I think you're right in that the writers have to commit to Tony's turn at this point. I mean, do I think there is still a possibility that there could be some circumstance that may move toward redeeming the character? Possibly. But I don't think that this is any more kind of like I'm undercover and pretending to be bad, to expose the bad guys. I think he really is in this. Whatever his reasons are, I don't necessarily think that they're aligned with his current employers. I don't think they're aligned with Jack. I don't think they're aligned with Hodges. I don't think they're aligned with anyone. I think Tony has his own agenda, his own end game. I don't know if his plans for the weapons for the weapon is the same as his employer's plans for it. But whatever he's doing, this is coming from really inside him, I think.
I do think that the possibility of Tony being good, as far as our classic definition of good, that possibility is over.
Yeah,
absolutely. However, one little thing that keeps coming up in the back of my mind when I'm watching these episodes, and I keep, maybe it's a ridiculous hope at this point, I don't know, but I keep thinking, wouldn't it be cool if Tony were the only one who knew something bigger than everybody else and had to do something totally on his own and completely unorthodox to address it, to counter something huge.
It's possible.
And big and internal, and
it's possible, but I don't think that it would have to do with like any kind of motive for helping the government in any way.
No.
Like, I just think that that's over and done with.
Yeah.
Like, Tony's I think we really, as fans, as Tony fans, have to accept that he's not the same man that he was before Michelle died and before he died. Mm-hmm. Sorry, you can't see, but died. Because I think his death changed him.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the comment they're making is that for all intents and purposes, Tony Almeida did die, and this is an evolution. Well, not an evolution, but like, you know what I'm trying, like a metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think his death changed him. I think his what he went through when he was brought back in such a vulnerable place, when his whole body and mind had broken down. I think
and his soul too,
and his soul, and the reprogramming that he would have undergone after a thing like that would be pretty
mixed
thorough.
with his own memories and emotions and anger.
Yeah,
because he, I mean, I don't know, maybe things would have been different if Jack never got kidnapped and got shipped off to China, and if, you know, Jack and Tony could have been there for each other, but...
I don't know, but I do think for sure that...
the writers are committed to the place that the character is in, and they're going to see it through to its conclusion.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any more, oh yeah, no.
No,
Really
there's
good.
a catch. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
none of that. No, that's over and done with for sure. I will say, too, that, like, at one point in time, a couple weeks ago, I said, if Tony is evil, he's for sure going to die. And I don't know if I think that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, I think that they could be laying groundwork to possibly bring the character back in season 8. It would be cool if they did that.
I think it would be super cool.
Yeah. Especially given where they're going with the character now, and
I
where they could still go.
Exactly. Like, I don't think, you know, if Tony died this season, I don't think that there's another alternative for next season that would be as intense and interesting to watch.
Especially given that next season is going to take place only 6 weeks after this season.
After, like, they've raised the bar when it comes to intensity and stakes and connection between antagonist and protagonist. And I don't think a new character, a random new character, a new villain would possibly have the same gravitas as this.
Oh, hells no.
You know, so I think...
I mean, right now, it's all out brother versus brother, fucking full-on war right now.
Yeah, and I love how they're so broken down, the both of them, but that's another thing entirely.
Yeah, totally. No, they're both completely falling apart at the seams, and, like, I thought that was actually really evident, like, just in the one particular scene where Tony's shot in the side and he's limping around with Galvez, right? And Jack's all about to have a seizure, and it's just kind of like, holy shit, like, you know, they're both, like, hanging on by a thread here. Like,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I would like to see this show break them both down even more. I mean, if they're gonna go down this road and just, like, make everything so utterly, like, and totally, like, in despair and in shambles, I really want to see them commit to that. You know, just really destroy them both, you know? Just right down to the very rawest level. Let's see, do we have any more questions? We have one more question from Benjamin. So at the end of the episode, it's quite apparent that they're setting us up for an all-out Jack versus Tony war by the end of this season. Many of us are bringing up how epic this is guaranteed to be. Jack versus Tony is the Clash of the Titans. But the fact remains this is 24, which means Jack wins 100% of the time. Assuming Tony were to stay a bad guy the whole way through, would you still root for him? If so, do you find it disheartening that Tony has a 0% chance of actually coming out on top?
Well, this is, I think, where season 8 comes into play. Do we have to have a resolution to this war?
Not necessarily.
No.
You know?
I don't think we do. I think the writers are more than aware of the fact that Jack always wins the day. Jack saves the day.
And so if they were to carry the story through to season 8, then they could kill off both characters if they want.
If they want.
You know, they could kill off Jack. They could let Tony come out on top. Who knows?
They could let both wind up in impossible circumstances and then resolve that in season 8. You know.
Yeah, they could do almost anything. So does Tony have absolutely 0% chance of coming out on top? I don't know. I mean...
I don't think he has a chance of winning.
Do you think that Jack could ever forgive Tony for this?
No.
Under any circumstance?
I think he could forgive Tony for this if my desperate hunch were correct. If Tony were running with some kind of knowledge that nobody else has, that if he disseminated to anybody would wreck a whole bunch, you know, I think Tony would admire his commitment.
You mean Jack would?
Jack would forgive Tony. Admire his commitment to the cause if the cause were something that
if it was just
Jack, could.
But I don't think Jack could forgive Tony just because, you know, he got really fucked up by what happened to him.
No, and I don't think the lying is forgivable.
No.
Tony or Jack needs to operate with full trust and love, and he puts himself...
And it's, I mean, because it's almost impossible for him to bestow that upon anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, you know, the only people that really ever earned it and stayed true to that was, like, Audrey and Tony up until now.
Yeah. Well, and then his own family, right?
Yes. And well, I mean, Kim, but...
Kim, and Terry.
Well, yeah,
but I mean...
But I just mean the whole sort of, like jumping off point for, like, the betrayal of Jack Bowers when Nina killed Terry, right? And then ever since then, it's like he's just been betrayed by people he trusted and, you know, like, had to lose people that he loved. And I don't know, this is, like, fuck, the look on Kiefer's face, like, when, I feel like at the very end, when Tony's standing over Jack and, you know, basically, like, shows him, here, I've got your meds, right? Like, holy shit, like, the look on his face, like, you know, like, desperation mixed with betrayal, mixed with, like, extreme anger, mixed with, like, total heartbreak, like, it was unbelievable.
I would love to ask Kiefer himself if Kiefer felt anything at that moment, playing Jack, reacting to Tony.
Oh, I'm sure they both did, like, you know, because that was one thing I can say, like, say whatever you want about the plot, say whatever you want about the twist, or Tony being bad, the bottom line is that the performance really sold the episode for me, like, Kiefer and Carlos together, and, you know, Annie Wershing thrown in there too, but mostly because the whole episode was so focused on Jack and Tony, right, and this sort of, like, cat and mouse, and both actors, like, have they both not been so good, and had they both not been so in character and so in touch with both characters being, you know, together, I don't think that the episode would have been as successful as it was, but they sold it.
Yeah.
And if Tony does end up being truly unforgivably evil, it'll still be awesome because Carlos Bernard will sell it.
That's the thing, you know, and I was saying this last night too. There's some kind of glee. There's some kind of, like, gritty enjoyment that I'm getting from watching this.
Like, on an analytical level or an academic level, I may not like it, or I may not end up agreeing with it, but I think that I'll still enjoy it because Carlos is just loving it so much. Like, he's, you know, he's just giving it to us total full tilt. You know?
Well, I mean, there's so much for an actor. There's so much dirt and grit. There's so many emotional ramifications for a thing like this, and it gives us
the emotional
meat and
like the emotional ramifications on the character himself, the emotional ramification on the other characters, the emotional ramification on the audience, the emotional ramification on you as an actor going through this as your character, because you get to know your character. You know, you start to develop, you know, ideas and feelings for your character, and you know, so that's what I would love to ask Carlos.
I would love to ask him that,
how does he feel about it? Like, beyond, oh, it's fun to play, or, you know, we think it evolved organically, or whatever. Like, how did you really feel, like, when you were reading this and then bringing it to life? Like, did you, Carlos Bernard, feel anything? Like, what did you feel for Tony Almeida? You know?
I know that we've bemoaned in the past with past episodes the lack of emotional relevance. After especially the third season finished, it didn't seem to any of us like there was anything really emotionally important to watch or to say.
For the longest time.
I mean, okay, so you know, I have moments like Mason's death, like Chappelle's death, like there were so many moments in the first 3 seasons that just hit you with a lot of, like, just sickening intensity, and there haven't been any of those since this season. And as much as I hate to see Tony go bad, I'm really happy that my emotions are back in play again.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Yeah, like, you can get a little bit out of your head and a little bit more into your heart, and, you know, bring some heart back into the show for the audience. But holy shit, like, you know, the last 5 episodes are gonna be pretty intense. They're gonna be a thrill ride. There's gonna be a lot to talk about, and, you know, it's just, what can I say, man?
I don't know. I think we've said, thank you so much all for those questions. They were really good.
No kidding. They were awesome. And, you know, we'd love to take more, like, in a future debrief, for sure. I've been thinking that maybe we should make, like, the last one of the season, like, extra long, because it'll be 2 episodes, and it's the last one, and so we can take lots of questions, and, you know, I've taken a vacation day the next day, so I can stay up as late as I want.
That'd be so much fun. And if any of you guys want to, I don't know, if you want to ask questions about things other than 24, go for it. We may or may not answer them.
There was one other question that was completely unrelated. Adam also wants to know, what did he say? Oh, I think it came in actually after we LOL'd about Terry, which we forgot to mention, how Kim's daughter is named Terry. Yeah, because Kat and I were apart, and so as soon as that popped up on screen, I got a text message. It goes, doo-doo-doo-doo. I pick up my phone, and it's Kat, and she says, Terry! Terry! And then I reply, LOL. Sorry, Adam says, one more question. Kasha versus Kat in an arm wrestling match. Who wins? I think it really depends on the time period, because I think there was a point in time where I would have been the winner, and I think there's probably a point in time now where you would probably win. I'm
kickboxing now, folks, so
it depends how, like, which one of us is working out heavily and which one of us isn't. So yeah, if we were both working out heavily, I don't know, it would probably be pretty even.
I think it would be even. Yeah. I think it would be. You've got power. I've got length of limb.
So, I don't know, I guess we'd have to, like, really just give it a whirl and find out. But
so maybe on the last episode we'll have a little arm wrestling.
Yeah, sure, but we're not going to do that tonight.
No.
So...